like to call to order the Wednesday, March 20th, 2019 meeting of the Airport Advisory Board. We'll begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Londa, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Shannon Stebbins.
Here.
Lewis Worthy.
Here.
Dave McNary. Robbie Willis.
Here.
Brian Schultz.
Here.
Mark Zeff.
Here.
Shannon Hicks. Here. Ed Weber. Here. Raleigh Ballas. Here. Jim Dolan.
Here.
Damon Anderson.
Here.
And Mark Clark will not be with us. And we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We begin the meetings always with an open call to the public. This is your opportunity to address this board on anything under our jurisdiction that's not listed on the agenda. The reason we ask for you, if it's listed on the agenda, to wait to address this is then we can have a two-way conversation. I'm going to now read a short paragraph that's required by Arizona open meeting law. We will now have an open call to the public for citizens wishing to address the board on issues within the jurisdiction of the board. Your comments must be limited to 5 minutes or less. If you wish to address an item already on today's agenda, you should wait until that item is announced for a public hearing. At the conclusion of the open call to the public, individual members of the board may respond to criticisms made by those who address the board, may ask staff to review a matter, or may ask that a matter be placed on a future agenda. However, board members cannot discuss or take legal action on matters not already on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board? Mr. Stokely.
Good evening. I rent Hangar 74 and I am a resident of the city. Tom Stokely is my name. The first thing I would like to talk, or the only thing I want to talk about tonight, is the AOPA, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Every year they do approximately 4 fly-ins across the country. Usually they split it up into different regions where they do one. Usually a couple of them in warm weather areas, a couple of them in colder weather areas where they do in the middle of the summer. I'm thinking that it would be a good idea for our airport and our community and our hotels and our restaurants and everything else if we tried to get a hold of the AOPA and get on their short list of being involved in one of those in the fall or in the spring. I would think that if we could get our board to direct staff to maybe contact our visitors board and see if they could start working on that and we can help them, that it would be a great thing for our city. And it would be fun for us. Several of us flew out to the one they had in Prescott about 1.5 years ago. Had a great time. It was fun, and it may be something that would be good for all of us. That'll be it. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll close the open call to the public. The first item of business is the approval of the February 20th, 2019 meeting minutes, which you were emailed. Do I have a motion to approve, or is there any discussion on changes or amendments?
Motion to approve.
Second, anyone?
Second.
If we're ready to vote, anybody that's opposed, please signify by saying nay. Unanimously approved. I want to take just a second to introduce our newest board member, who is a non-pilot alternate, and it's Mr. Robbie Ballas. He's with us in the audience. We're pleased to have you on board, and thank you for volunteering. We appreciate it. The next item is the airport supervisor's report, and that's Mr. Damon Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, I'll start with just a reminder about the public workshop coming up on March 28 out at the airport. It's definitely open to the public. Give everybody a chance to come out and voice their opinion. They're going to have Kaufman and Associates, the airport planner, is going to be there. You know, and they're going to walk us through what they've gotten so far. It's not a full, presentation of the whole thing, but they're going to get us as far as they've got. But definitely be some good information. Give everybody a chance to come in and ask questions, different things of that nature, and just definitely want to remind everybody that it's a good time to show up, and it's going to be in the terminal, 5:30, like 5:30 to 7. And another thing, you may see some folks out on the field. We've had several inspections. We had the annual AWAS inspection that came out that all went without a hitch, so that was good news. Same guy that's there is also working on that, the recorder device. We've been talking about that. The device they're trying to use it's got, antiquated software, things like that, but it doesn't have a reputation for faulting. We looked at some other things. They start getting real expensive, and then the other ones that aren't real expensive, they don't have a really good reputation. And so we're going to go ahead and follow through with the one we've got going right now, and he's looking at sometime in May that he's going to get in and finally finish that up. That's the plan. We've got a 5010 inspections coming up. Got that letter in the mail. It should be coming up at the end of this month, next month. It's shouldn't be anything to worry about. They come out, they want to make sure the master record and everything is up to date and current. And then they'll look at the field, the different conditions, lights, things of that nature. So you may see somebody out there. We're also having an obstruction survey that's coming up, so there'll be some people out around the field, with some transits and doing some surveying. We had a good weekend with the Young Eagles. Shannon and everybody, apparently that went pretty good. And I heard there was one helicopter kind of knocked over a few tables toward the end, but that went off without a hitch, apparently. The RFP, I don't have a lot on that. Last I talked with Martha, as of right now, the plan is that that's going to possibly coming out at the end of May. I know that's a hot topic for a lot of people, but that's when it's supposedly, if everything goes as planned, it should be coming out sometime around in May. Let's see. A few things that we want to try to do. Obviously, most everybody knows one of the biggest demands out there is pavement rehabilitation. That's, and so we're working with CNS, the engineers on that. They came out yesterday, and we went out and looked around. They took some pictures, and getting everything, and we're now into that. They finally got us everything we need, and we're going to go ahead and get with the independent fee estimate, start moving forward with the Taxiway Alpha project as well. They say even if everything goes without a hitch on that, it could possibly be 2 years before they break ground on the construction part of it. So we were able to get a little bit of money from the MSD or what have you, and so some of the guys with the city are going to come out and finish crack sealing Taxiway Alpha all the way down to the end. And if they have any more material, things like that, then maybe we can start moving around to some of these other places. And they're also going to go and seal coat Taxiway Bravo, the one with the little S-turn in it that you got up there. Kind of do it like they've got in front of their hangars, and it should clean that up a little bit because it's really dry. And that's mostly all I have. I've got other things, but definitely open for any questions. I've got tons of stuff we're working on. I'm just trying to hit some of the high points. But if anybody's got any questions about anything else, I'd love to address that.
Yeah, the tenants just received or will receive a letter from you that says that the gate codes have been changed on gate 5 and 6.
Correct.
Were all the gate codes changed or just those two?
Just those two as of right now. And I do want to start looking into, I'm going to go around and get some quotes and see about possibly implementing card readers and doing away with these push buttons, because we're getting tons of people that are just giving out the code, 100 plus tenants out there, and they give it to one person, well, then that person, and it's just running amok is what it seems like. And it'd be nice if I could do that. Then we could go ahead and start issuing the parking permits. We can get all that laid out at one time. Send a couple cards to somebody, parking permit, the do's and don'ts, a good little reminder of, wait at the gate before you move on. Make sure nobody's pigging back on you, and even make sure it doesn't malfunction. A lot of times the gate will just malfunction, stick open. You done drove off, and now some people see an open hole and they're in there. No doubt. I caught a guy out on the field the other day, and and it was obvious he wasn't supposed to be there. Needless to say, just keep that short. But it was disturbing, none the least.
Reference that. I noted that in your letter, and one of the issues with waiting, particularly at the gate that's on George Molitor Way, is that because of some concerns 3 or 4 years ago from somebody that, with a trailer that the gate closed on before he got through, the delay was increased. And right now, it's too long a delay for somebody to wait. It takes 30 to 45 seconds for it to shut.
Right.
And I know that that's a requirement on a Part 139 airport, a really big requirement, but it's still a requirement on any airport because it's a controlled access area.
Correct.
So if we could talk about maybe changing the delays back to what is reasonable again.
I agree. We even were wondering if there's possibly some kind of process that it would recognize that you went through it and immediately shut, but I do agree, and they should have a possibility to shorten that wait time for sure. So 35, 40 seconds doesn't seem long till you're sitting there. It's like looking at the microwave.
And the workshop that you referenced is the master plan workshop.
Correct.
And that's probably the most important thing that happens at the airport. I can't downplay it at all. It's good for once every 10 years you do a new master plan. So when this master plan comes out in 2 years, it's the yardstick or the calendar of what is going to be done, what's going to be developed, and it's the basis for us getting all of our grants from the FAA as well. So it really needs the input of anyone that's concerned or associated with the airport because this is an extremely important document.
It is.
What was the date of that one again? I missed that.
The 28th.
Of
March.
March.
Yeah.
Nick, it's this coming Friday, I think, isn't
Correct.
it? Anyone else, Mr. Zeff?
Yeah, as far as you know, our airport's in compliance of all the FAA regulations for accepting those and qualifying for those grants in the future.
As of right now, it's fine. Yeah, we just closed out a grant. When you're reading through the paperwork, they had there was no obligations that were broken that we're supposed to follow.
That sounds
there's
good.
definitely some things at the airport going on that need to be addressed to continue to make sure that we get those. And that'll fall into the hangar inspections. Hangar inspections, it seems like those have kind of just been dragging out. I've talked with Paul, and we're working up a system to just try to get in and knock every one of them out, in 1 month or so. And then it can be a repetitious things where every year that month they'll kind of get done. And it'll help us get an assessment too of what empty hangars are there, how many aircraft are on the field, how we can accommodate some of the people on the wait list. And I'm also addressing the possibility of subleases and things like that. People are going to do it regardless, it seems like, in a way. So I'm going to try to possibly even word it in some new agreements and go ahead and allow that, and just make sure that people are giving us all the proper documentation. Because we want, hangars need to be aeronautical use for these grant assurances. You can't do any discrimination, and there's several more little things on there, but those are some of the ones that fall into the hangar usage that we have, and everybody's aware that there's definitely some issues going on out there of non-aeronautical use. And I also was going to, I'm going to try to implement some long-term parking. I found the agreements, we've got those pulled up. I'm going to start trying to use the lower half of the terminal parking lot. Most people know that parking lot's not being used much of anything but to store some rental cars and things of that nature. And maybe that'll even alleviate some of these motor homes and things that we find out there on the fields. We can go ahead and tell them we've got a spot on the outside of the field, it's non-aeronautical use. Go ahead and sign an agreement with them, and move forward with trying to accommodate somebody like that. And if it works out and we start getting a bunch of them in, and there's other areas out there, dirt lots that we could use as well to start putting people in. Just don't want it to turn into a graveyard-looking place. We'd have to follow all those standards that the city has, making sure it's an operational vehicle. Whether or not we make sure that it's somebody that's flying in the aviation community, and that's still up in the air. And I'll be glad if anybody has any concerns and stuff like that. They can definitely come by my office. We can talk about any of these things too, on a one-on-one basis, and address some of these things.
Directly to your question, there was a meeting, the annual meeting between us and the FAA about 5 or 6 months ago, in which we went over all the projects that we anticipated in the future. And they were very pleased with our airport. They had a tour of the airport, and they were fully on board and committed to helping us try to get these pavement projects done.
Right.
One more question. The date on that first event or schedule you'd mentioned in your presentation, March 28th or something. I wasn't sure what the date was.
Yes, March 28th for
Okay.
the master plan workshop. You bet. 5:30 in the evening at the terminal, and I guess it's going to be in the TSA room that we had.
And all of us are welcome.
You bet, yeah.
Okay.
So it's open to the public, and definitely encourage everybody to come.
Anyone else? Move to upcoming events, which is in this next topic. Do you have anything to present for that, Damon?
No, not at this time. I mean, Havasu area is still pretty far out. No, I don't.
Okay, the Young Eagles flying that was conducted last Saturday, we hosted 47 local kids between the ages of 8 and 17. We conducted 24 flights, and we had a great time. It went really well. My hat's off to everybody in the EAA for setting that up and helping with it. We do have a airport civic project coming up this weekend on Friday and Saturday. We're going to be pressure washing and repainting the shade port that's located closest to the highway. And I think anybody that can come and help, maybe about 7:30 on Saturday morning and Sunday. So we're anticipating that 2 days. We have the paint's been donated, and we have 2 high lift devices. And if you think you can hold a roller and put paint on some steel, please come and give us a hand. Anything else? Our first public hearing that we've opened for a public hearing is a discussion on hot refueling. And first I'll go through this a little bit, and then I'll ask if anyone has any comments from the public. Both of our fixed base operators advertise on their websites that they conduct hot refueling. And hot refueling means that they refuel aircraft with their engines, power plants running. It's been done at our airport for a long time. As a commercial pilot, very seldom do we not refuel without the APU running. And in fact, most commercial airplanes cannot be refueled without electrical power on them. So that means an APU or a auxiliary power plant or plugged in at a gate. The problem is that we have Lake Havasu City Ordinance 11.08.710 that states the following: no aircraft shall be fueled or defueled at the airport while the aircraft power plants is running or while such aircraft is in a hangar or enclosed space. And this is not a gotcha on anyone. This has been here since 1991, and all of us have known that we have hot refueling going on, but only recently did the two come together. So at this point, I open it up for a public hearing. Does anyone in the audience have any comments on this procedure? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. From my perspective, what I'd like to see is request that staff come back to us next month with a recommendation. If your investigation with the fire department, whoever else is concerned, determines that this ought to be allowed, then we as a board can talk about it, and if we think it's correct, we can go to the city council with a recommendation to change the city ordinance, as well as staff can do. So this is just something that's kind of fallen through the cracks and probably needs to be rectified. Any other comments?
Would it be too premature to make a recommendation to the city council now to make a revision in that ordinance? Because once our recommendation goes to the city council, I think you guys will then take it forward and make your own determination after that.
I think that, well, number one, it's on here as a discussion, so we can't take any action tonight anyway.
I thought that's when
It's
we
a
had
discussion.
to take action. I'm sorry.
And in my view, and I can be overruled by all of you for sure, is that this is just something we need staff's input. We need to have them, and then once staff makes a recommendation, we can have a full and fruitful discussion up here, and determine whether or not we agree with staff's recommendations or we don't agree with staff's recommendations,
Okay, that sounds good.
and then go forward to the city council if we need to. It may be that staff comes to us and says, yeah, we shouldn't be doing hot refilling. I remember many, many months ago, one of the owners of the local FBOs told us that they had parked an airplane in a certain place because it was a military aircraft and they couldn't shut it down. So, I mean, it's obvious it's going on. It's just that it's probably my bad. I just read this and kind of said, whoa, we're doing this. But my feeling is, and it's open to anybody else to chime in as well, is that we need to let staff take a look at it and come to us with a recommendation, then we can discuss their recommendation, and it may or may not that we did agree or disagree. We're under no obligation, neither are they under any obligation to agree with ours, but I think this is in its infancy. It needs to go forward with some investigation first.
Now, are we talking about military aircraft?
We're talking about any aircraft. This doesn't reference military, commercial, or general aviation. It just says it's prohibited, period.
But what I'm getting at is if our worry is about the military aircraft, wouldn't the federal regulation supersede the city's?
There is no federal regulation. It's a military procedure, and certainly that doesn't carry the weight of a federal regulation. The military units that I've been involved with had hot refueling SOPs and had various safety things that had to happen to have hot refillings. But certainly our military, I'll speak to the Army. They conduct hot refueling in the field routinely. I mean, they haul blivets of fuel with CH-47s and they plop it down, and so does the Air Force when they're out operating off of an unimproved strip. They all do it, but they all have specific safety SOPs and procedures that are followed in order to do it safely. And I don't know what those are relationship to our airport and grounding points and other things. I think the fire department probably needs to get involved in this and say, yeah, if we do it, then we have to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not at this point suggesting that it be stopped. I'm just suggesting that it's going on and there's a city ordinance that prohibits it. So we need to make a decision on which way to go, one way or another.
It's regulated with the NFP 407 is where the regulations are for the hot fueling, and it's only allowed for jet fuel at that. It's not an aviation. It's supposed to be a single point pressure feed, and like he says, it's not just the military. It's all these jets. Normally they have an APU running, like he says, need to power. One of the regulations is that you don't want to start any fueling, or you don't want to be fueling and they start an APU, GPU, or turn one off. It always just needs to either be running before you start it and continue to run it while the fueling's going on. And there's supposed to be a qualified pilot behind the controls of the aircraft as well that's supposed to know all the proper procedures for exiting the aircraft. And that normally will fall on the pilot of that aircraft. And if you're not supposed to do it with passengers on board, is definitely one of the things. But if for some reason you do need to do it with passengers on board, well, then that's when the ARF truck needs to be pulled out and staged and sitting there ready as well. And it's good to have somebody outside the thing as well. But that's kind of a little bit of my input.
No, I understand. And what I'm getting at is if it's the military that we're concerned about, then I also know that under the military regulations, even their fuelers have to be trained a certain way. So that's where the fire department would get involved and verify and confirm that the FBO has the correct training to even attempt to be doing this.
And there's probably no one in this room that hasn't ridden on a commercial airliner. And I can guarantee you that while you're getting on that airplane and taking your seat, it's being refueled. That's just the normal. We pull into the gate, passengers get off, passengers get on, the fuel truck hooks up, and we refuel irrespective of whether there's passengers or not on board. That's just a normal everyday operation. But those people are trained to do that. So there's a lot of different factors here. I don't have any problem with them doing it if we have a set procedure and it's followed, and if that's your recommendation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would definitely take your recommendation. I think we should definitely send it to staff and then see what they come back with. And then if it's something we have to bring back in front of the board or even to the level of the council. But yeah, I think staff would probably be our next let them delve into it and see what we need to do from there, so.
I agree. This is a staff policy issue, and it's not up to the board to produce policy. Just, and we're just asking you to do this if you would, please.
Shannon, what was that ordinance number again?
11.08.710. Fueling and defueling restrictions is the title of it. It was passed in 1991, it says.
Thank you.
Quick question. Anybody here know or recall of any incidents that have pertaining to hot refueling have happened since 1991 or in the past? Because that might help clarify when the city goes, if they know or not. No
Well,
incidences.
There was a glaring one in the Iraqi desert during the hostage rescue attempt, and that's what it was all about. They were moving aircraft around to do hot refueling, and they ran into each other.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that, a revision looks better than, or something to look at,
Yeah, that's a discussion that we can certainly have after we have a staff recommendation, but I think the first thing we need to do is have a staff recommendation, and then we can take a look at that and see which way we want to go as a board. Is there anyone on the board that doesn't agree with that? If there's no further discussion, I'll close this issue and go to the next one. Item 7.2 is discussion on use of terminal space for potential helicopter tour operation. And this is again is a public hearing, and I'm going to wait for a few minutes until you present you with what it is before we open it as one. And I'm going to turn it over to Damon. The genesis of this is a helicopter operator from Alaska has approached the city and is in some way negotiating for space in the terminal building to do a wintertime helicopter tour, aerial tour operation here. I think it's just one helicopter, but let me turn it over to Damon and he can brief us on what it is.
Correct. I don't have a whole lot to say on it, but I do want to touch base. They were planning on being here and giving a presentation on that, but they got caught back up in Alaska, and that's where they're back now. They really are eager to do this. I mean, I feel like it may give some good use of the terminal. We've also started discussing possibly bringing the maintenance guys that are out there in the old TSA trailer, bringing them into some of those offices that are in the terminal, and then letting these people possibly rent that other trailer that's out there, and then we could, possibly set up a type of helipad right out in front of that. It'll give them good access from the parking lot that we have, walk right in. But they definitely seem very eager. The map that y'all see in front of you, and you can see this here, some of the routes that they're proposing to take. My biggest concern with it is, running into noise problems, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal with one helicopter doing it, and if we start getting some complaints, he said they would definitely oblige in changing their routes and different things of that nature. But they've got a pretty solid operation going in Alaska. I Googled and looked up their website up there, and main thing I got from that was that I need to start planning a trip to Alaska after watching those videos. That was one good looking place, But I'm excited to see them come in. Hopefully they'll follow through and everything will work out. And just got to work out the logistics of it and go from there.
Any comments or questions from board members at this point?
I'd just like to say I go to Alaska twice a year, so if you want to join me. But I sell products to airplane hangars, and a lot of the helicopter companies are really reputable, really a lot more safe than some of the bush planes that we've known to have problems up in the misty fjords and stuff with crashes and things. But the helicopters seem like they run a lot safer. And then just a reminder to noise. We've got those big jet engine boats on the lake that are running almost 24/7 in the summer, and that's more noise than, what's the saying on the shaking the lake or something? So I think a lot of locals are used to a lot of horsepower and loud jet engines and kind of get a kick out of it. But personally, I think it'd be good for the city too.
This is a public hearing, so let me open it up to anyone in the public who'd like to make a comment. Mr. Weber.
Ed Weber. I have a concern about security for the airport. Having been involved with the tour company for a little over 4 years, we escorted all of our customers in and out of the secure area of the airport. And I'm wondering, with this at the airport terminal building, will this company be willing to ensure that people cannot come on to the other areas of the airport and that they are escorted out of the secure area of the airport? The other question I have would be about what altitude would they be operating their tours at? And how would that mesh in with our traffic patterns?
Can I take that for just a second? The first part of your question is that the terminal area would negate any concerns with security because they would be taking 1 to 3 passengers out and bringing 1 to 3 passengers back in. So there'd be nobody out on the airport grounds. So there'd absolutely be no security issue. And altitude-wise, helicopters do not have the restrictions that fixed-wing aircraft have. They are operated at a safe altitude. That means that if I'm in a helicopter, I can hover over this parking lot out here, and all I have to do to prove to the FAA is if I have an engine failure, I can do a hovering auto rotation in the grass next to it. So
Well, that's the concern, is that they would stay below the traffic pattern altitudes.
well, the FARs require helicopters to avoid the flow of fixed-wing traffic. So by regulation, they've got to stay out of it, Ed. I think they'd be below any of your operation in your aircraft, I think.
Okay, thank you.
Damon?
I think one thing that we're going to try to do is possibly even follow the same route that we got some of the hang glider, the ultralight traffic and the way they come in and use Charlie taxiway. So they might try to fall in with that type pattern like that to avoid some of the traffic as well.
Any other comments, questions?
Just something came up as a reminder. In the past, we've had military helicopters landing at the airport, gravel, spitting up dirt, things like this, upsetting some of the people with hangars. And I just want to make sure that this wouldn't have those type of consequences as well in the area that you're speaking. So that way we're not going to make anyone upset or go too close to anybody who's not involved in a business or commercial.
Yeah, no, that's the best part about it out there in front of the terminal. There's not hardly much of anything, to disturb right there. And there's just tons of room out there. We could pretty much try to set it up anywhere.
Nice.
But yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
Thanks.
The helicopter wouldn't be flying over any unimproved area at all. My view is that it's a function of the airport staff, this board, and the city council to have open arms to new businesses and promote new businesses. And this is an aviation business that's absolutely an authorized use of the airport. I hope that we welcome them with open arms and embrace them myself.
I agree.
Anyone else? Any comments?
One more question. It was just a seasonal thing that he was going to be doing maybe in the winters or summers? Okay.
Just the winter.
Just the winters.
He's in Alaska right now, starting their tour business up there. Going to go through the summer there. I believe it's October through April or so.
October through April. Thank you.
Entertain future agenda items from any board member. Can you give us a recommendation, or at least initial recommendation next month on the refueling with power plants running issue?
Definitely.
Anyone else?
I did have one quick question. Where the big helicopters are up by the North Hangar? I was kind of reading on some of the, I think it's called pavement classification numbers, like indicates how the pavement is for stuff to be parked on. I was wondering if that's anywhere in the one. So are we hurting anything?
Not right now.
No? I was just curious.
No, but that is definitely a concern. But yeah, it's probably the smallest classification on all the pavement on there. What I was shocked when I saw that. I mentioned that to Lance yesterday with CNS, and he said, well, at least it wasn't zero. But no, it's definitely down there. Those numbers are put out they're put out to make the pavement last a good 20 years. Most of the time it'll never do any damage. Just one time it have to be a catastrophic overload to come in, knock a hole in it. But those numbers are there it's mainly for thinking about the runway. You come in, they want the runway to last 20 years. And they have in the guy that does the PCMs, they have an overload guide. They're allowed to do so many overloads of a certain percentage of the but it's definitely a good concern.
Okay, thank you.
It'll get bigger in the summer. It's definitely a different issue.
Future meeting is April 17th, 2019, in this room at 5:30. And if there's no further discussion, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Without objection, we're adjourned. Thank you.